What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today I want to talk about how I think a Jet star has become, I'd argue, significantly underrated. So the NFL Top 100 has come out and we got a Jet on here, which is good that a Jet is in the top 100, but his ranking dropped significantly from 2024 to 2025, and I don't know if it's that deserved. So Quinnen Williams came in as the 87th rated player in the NFL, which is 50 spots lower than where he was a year ago. He was ranked 37th. Now, did he have as good of a year as he had the last 2 years? No, he didn't. I will be the first one to tell you that. But does it warrant a 50 spot drop? That I'm unsure of. And it's not so much about where he comes in on this list. It's more so about the perception that I think some Jet fans have around Quinnen Williams. And a common phrase that I hear when talking about Quinnen Williams is that he's overrated. And I really don't see it. Last year, in a bad year for Quinnen Williams, he had 54 pressures, which ranked 10th among interior defensive linemen in the NFL. And he had 6 sacks to go along with it. So I get it. You would have liked to see him with more sacks. I would as well. And he wasn't nearly as good as what he usually is against the run. But I think we're kind of missing the plot in general as Jet fans with Quinnen Williams. Even in a down year, right? You take a little bit of a step back. He's at worst, the 4th best interior defensive lineman in the league. The only 3 that I would consider putting in front of him in whatever order: Chris Jones, Dexter Lawrence, Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward came in at 83rd on this list, so just a touch higher than Quinnen Williams. That's it, though. The end of list. I'm not putting Leonard Williams in front of him. I'm not putting Jalen Carter in front of him. I'm not putting insert whoever you want on the interior defensive line in front of Quinnen Williams. And for some reason, again, it seems like every year we get this claim that he's overrated and that he doesn't do anything, and it just doesn't add up. Unfortunately, I think it comes from just box score watching territory. I think we just look and go, oh, well, you know, he doesn't have a 12 sack season like he did in 2022. Clearly he stinks. 6 sacks. Come on, anyone can give you 6 sacks. Well, not everyone's giving you 50 plus pressures every single year. And that's a key stat. I know the sexy number is the sacks, and sacks are important. I'm not diminishing the importance of the sack. But pressures also lead to bad throws, interceptions, fumbles, errant passes, misses, incomplete passes. There's a lot of underlying things that don't necessarily show up in your ESPN box score app that Quinnen Williams does. And he normally is very good against the run. It just didn't help that last year he had guys like Javon Kinlaw and Hassan Reddick playing a decent chunk of snaps once Reddick joined the team halfway through the year. And there was a lot of freelancing going on. Gap integrity on the Jets defensive line was essentially non-existent with half of them in Kinlaw and Reddick and Michael Clemens and guys like that. That's why you hear so many people get on, and people like me, who make videos, get on guys like Kinlaw, Reddick, and Clemens, because last year the tape unfortunately was riddled with examples. And it's frustrating when someone, yes, maybe doesn't perform to the top standard, right? Because I think at one point, you could say Quinnen was the 2nd best interior defensive lineman behind Chris Jones, or maybe 3rd behind Dexter Lawrence and Chris Jones. But we're still talking about a guy who, again, at worst is a top 4 player at his position. And Jet fans being the ones to call that person overrated is a little ridiculous, honestly. And it's starting to happen with Sauce Gardner a little bit too, from where, he was last year to what he was the previous 2 years. But I think if you get even just average play, it doesn't have to be great play next to him. Just don't be Javon Kinlaw. If you get okay, competent play next to him, then the numbers are going to show. There's going to be a spike. The pressures will go up. They'll be back closer to 70, which it was a year ago, and he'll probably have 8 sacks this year. I think we forget too, he's still only 27 years old. He doesn't turn 28 until December, and he's entering his 7th year in the league, and he's been through a lot. There's been a lot of really bad Jets teams that he was on, 2019, 20, 21, last year, the collapse years in 22 and 23. he's gone through a lot with this franchise. He's a great player, not only just league wide, but he's also a great Jet. And I just don't understand where this overrated narrative is. I'd even argue that at this point, he's turned to underrated because of how many people call him overrated. So I'm not even at properly rated anymore with Quinnen Williams, which I was for a while. He is now underrated because people think that he stinks and he's not worth his contract, when in fact it very much so is a bargain, because you look at how much the numbers go up year over year, and guys who are worse than him got paid this past offseason significantly more. So I'm good with Quinnen Williams. I'm glad he's a New York Jet. He's a good player. I don't really care about the top 100 ratings, but I do care about Jet fans not appreciating one of their own. So it's a little bit of a litmus test for me. If you're a Quinnen Williams overrated guy, probably don't really take what you say too seriously on this sport. That'll do it for me. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe here if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.